Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into sustainable development and looking at exactly why green skills aren't just some niche topic anymore. Honestly, they're an absolute necessity for our shared future. Right off the bat, let's tackle the defining question of our time. Can we actually continue to grow economically without completely destroying our ecosystem in the process? Because look, we all want innovation, right? But we kind of need a habitable planet to actually enjoy those advancements on.
To figure that out, our agenda today covers what sustainable development is, the roots of the movement, why it matters, the limits of growth, modern challenges, and we'll wrap up by testing your green skills.
Okay, Section 1. What is sustainable development?
If you look at the absolute cutting edge right now, things like information technology, artificial intelligence, and green skills are completely intertwined. The technologies of tomorrow literally have to be built on the sustainable principles of today. Why? Because we simply can't code our way out of a depleted planet.
At its core, sustainable development is this massive, intricate balancing act. It's all about harmonizing economic growth, environmental care, and social well-being. Basically, how do we minimize the depletion of our natural world while still letting human society completely thrive?
And that brings us to the ultimate golden rule. It comes straight from the 1987 Brundtland Report, meeting present needs without compromising future generations' ability to meet theirs. It's essentially asking us to be good ancestors, Take what we need today, for sure, but never, ever at the expense of tomorrow.
Moving on to Section 2, Roots of the Movement.
Now, you might think sustainability is this super modern anxiety, but it actually stems all the way back to 17th and 18th century European forest management. Think about it. When wood is your main resource, you figure out pretty fast that you can't just chop down your entire forest at once. Those early localized ideas evolved over the 20th century as environmental concerns really started to grow, ultimately culminating in 1987 when the UN published the Brundtland Report, which gave us that golden rule we just talked about.
Let's look at Section 3, why sustainability matters.
Sources break this down into 3 really actionable steps. First up is the physical mechanics, the proper use and conservation of resources. Step 2 is a bit deeper, the development of a positive attitude. We have to fundamentally change our internal mindset. And step 3 is people's participation. We absolutely need that local buy-in for conservation to work. So it's not just hard science, it's heavily reliant on human psychology and community action.
And a really fascinating shift happens here when we start reframing the environment as a shared asset. It completely changes the game. It demands this communal responsibility, shifting our brains from, hey, what can I extract for myself, to how do we collectively manage this invaluable wealth that belongs to all of us?
Which brings us to Section 4, the limits of growth.
We're looking at a pretty stark contrast here. On one hand, we have the effective use of limited resources to satisfy our basic needs. On the other, the relentless global overuse of non-renewables. Our development has to align with the planet's carrying capacity. We literally cannot outgrow the physical limits of the Earth. It's just a hard boundary.
And that leads us to this incredibly uncompromising truth. Recognizing sustainability isn't just some nice utopian idea. It is a prerequisite for our literal survival as a species. You can't have economic progress in a vacuum. If the ecosystem collapses, the economy goes right down with it.
Section 5, the modern environmental challenge.
So our modern challenges are definitely piling up. We're seeing poor management of natural resources clashing with this explosion in economic activity. And here's a crucial concept. Our renewable resources, like air and water, have a finite assimilation capacity. Basically, there's a strict limit to how much of our waste and emissions they can absorb, kind of like a sponge. If we exceed those levels, we get rapid ecosystem deterioration. Plus, actually measuring this capacity is incredibly tough, leaving us with some terrifying uncertainty around things like soil erosion and atmospheric pollution.
We're also dealing with a fascinating modern paradox right now. As global incomes rise, people actually demand better environmental quality. They want clean air and nice parks, and they have more money to invest in it. But pulling aggressively in the exact opposite direction, we have rapid population growth and absolutely exploding energy demands.
And that looming threat is perfectly captured in one staggering number: 6. Based on our source data, manufacturing outputs in developing countries are projected to increase 6-fold by the year 2030. Just think about that. The sheer volume of energy and resource extraction needed to fuel a 600% jump in manufacturing in such a short window, that is exactly why green skills are absolutely not optional anymore.
Finally, Section 6. Test your green skills. Let's see what you retained.
First question for you. Which of the following is not a principle of sustainable development? Is it carefully utilizing resources, conserving them, or minimizing depletion? Well, if you've been following along, you know A, B, and C are the core principles. So the answer is D, none of the above. They are all absolutely crucial.
Next question. We started our timeline with 17th century European foresters, but when did the idea of sustainable development gain wide global acceptance due to rising environmental concerns? If you said the 20th century, specifically leading up to that 1987 Brundtland report, you hit the nail right on the head.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We know the 1987 rule, right? Meeting our needs without compromising the future. But how would you define sustainability in your own words? And more importantly, how are you going to apply that definition to your own daily choices as a steward of our shared assets? The limits of growth are very real, but our capacity for innovation and a positive attitude is boundless. Thanks for joining me today, and keep thinking about those green skills.